Tell us about your character, about Rita.
Rita is 26, and she's a hairdresser. She comes from a working class background in Liverpool, which is the northwest of England, on the coast. And it's a port. And she's married, she hasn't got any children, but she's reaching a time in her life when everybody is expecting her to have children. The family are putting pressure, you know, what's happening with these two, why haven't had children, and that sort of thing. And she is feeling, I'm not ready to have children yet because life has not, I don't feel in any way fulfilled. Looking around her, she thinks that what's missing is education. Because she feels that the educated, the people that she sees who have got things are people who've had an academic education. And the film is about this woman thirsting for knowledge because that's going to give her something more, she feels. In fact, it gives her something completely different to what she expects.
And Michael Caine, as Dr. Bryant, leads you through this.
Yeah, and he's somebody who's utterly disillusioned with education. He's not interested in it at all. I mean, he's an alcoholic and, you know, he's, you know, tired of students.
Anyone that tells their students to go out and have a good time and not listen to the words of dead poets.
That's right, yes,
it's usually a good sign that they're a little disillusioned. Tell us, we have a scene from the movie. Why don't you set it up for us?
Well,
toward the end.
Right, yes. Well, when I said to you that what she discovers is something more than, what actually she gets out of the education is not what she expects, is that it was nothing to do with whether she passes her exams or anything like that. What she actually discovers is choice. She discovers she actually has choice and a control over her life. And she comes to realise what he's done for her.
Oh, and I've been offered a job in London as well.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. I might go to France, I might go to London, or just stay here and carry on with my studies. I might even stay here and have a baby. I don't know. I'll make a decision. I'll choose.
How do you want the audience to feel when you walk out of this picture? How do you feel that you will have accomplished your goal as an actress in this film? How do you want the audience to feel?
Well, I want them to feel... Oh, this is very difficult. I want them to feel loads of things. But I want them to feel, yes, that we all have choice, really. And men, not just women, but men as well, that we have, because you do forget you have choice.
And tomorrow on Action 4, we'll meet Michael Caine, the man whose character gives Rita the ability to make a choice. I'm Dean O'Lally.
The film Alfie, catapulted you to international stardom, and it was, of course, directed by Louis Gilbert, who did Educating Rita. What was your reaction when he called on this project?
My reaction was that I'd love to work with Louis again. I'd already seen the play. The play ran for 3 years in London with Julie Walters, who plays Rita in the film, the same girl from the play. And I was very interested to do the show with her because I thought she gave a wonderful performance in the play. Plus the fact that I think that it would do for Julie what Alfie did for me. It's her Alfie, really. It's Educating Rita.
Your character is Dr. Frank Bryant, sort of a disillusioned professor who likes to drink, and who tells his students things like they should not worry about what dead poets say and have a good time. Why is he like that?
I think he's disillusioned with himself, and when you become disillusioned with yourself, you're apt to blame disillusionment on others. And so he's disillusioned with his students, whether they're good or bad or indifferent. But the change comes about when he meets a non-permanent student, which is a temporary evening class student, which is Rita, played by Julie Walters. And she is a working class girl who really has no reason to have a degree in English literature, but just wants one. And this catches his interest, and he sees how much he can change her and how he can get her to do it. But in actual fact, she changes him.
Here in this scene, after a night of heavy drinking, Dr. Brian, played by Michael Caine, meets for the first time the lively and energetic Rita, and she is completely different from any other student that he's ever met before.
I changed my name to Rita. You know, after Rita Mae Brown. Rita Mae Brown, who wrote Ruby Fruit Jungle. Haven't you read it? It's a fantastic book, you know. Do you want to lend it?
Yes, yes. Well, thank you very much.
Okay. And what do they call you round here?
Sir? But you may call me Frank.
Well, I'm glad to see that you finally got the name situation
Yes.
cleared up, sir, Frank, whatever. Tell us about one of the hazards of this project, because I understand you had to gain over 30 pounds.
That is a hazard for a guy of 50, I tell you, because the thing, it's like cutting your hair short. You wonder whether it's going to grow again.
4 of your most successful films were stage plays first.
Yes.
Educating Rita, of course, is the same way. Your other films, Alfie, California Sweet, Sleuth, and Death Trap.
Yeah.
Why is it that the films that were stage plays first were probably more successful?
Dialogue. Dialogue.
That's the key.
Dialogue is the key. I am happier with dialogue than most actors are. Most actors try to give it away. I never give away any dialogue. As a matter of fact, if there isn't any, I'll invent it.
Just sort of wing it as you go through it.
I've winged quite a lot of dialogue in my time. Not in this picture, but in others.
I'll review Educating Rita tomorrow on Action 4. I'm Dean O'Lally. On Action. It's funny, it's heartwarming, it's a cute, witty comedy. It's called Educating Rita. Based on the long-running play in London, Educating Rita will appeal more to those who like sophisticated intellectual comedies and who may want a change of pace from the action picture. Julie Walters, who originated the role of Rita for the London stage, is sensational in this, her film debut. Rita is a hairdresser who wants something more out of life. She's of the British working class, and it dawns on her that to achieve what she wants in life, she will need an education. Well, Frank Bryan is the professor, very well played by Michael Caine, who is somewhat disillusioned with education. He also likes to drink on the job.
Doctor, are you drunk? You don't really expect me to teach this when I'm sober.
Little does he know what's in store for him, as Rita will soon enter his life, and enter she does in a rather unusual style. She's enrolled in the Open University, and here in this scene, the two meet for the first time.
Come in. For God's sake, come in.
I'm coming in, aren't I? It's that stupid bleeding handle on the door. You want to get it fixed?
Yes, I meant to.
Well, that's no good, is it? Always meaning to. You want to get on with it, because one of these days you'll be shouting, come in, and it'll go on forever, because the poor sod on the other side won't be able to get in, and you won't be able to get out.
And you are?
I'm a what?
Pardon?
What?
And you are? What is your name?
Me first name?
Well, that would at least constitute some sort of start, wouldn't it?
Rita.
Ah, Rita. Her name used to be Susan, but she changed it to Rita after Rita Mae Brown. Anyway, little by little, Rita changes. She goes from working-class hairdresser to upper-class English literature intellectual. And Dr. Bryant begins to change also. He has helped her, but even more so, she has helped him. The film's advertisement sums it up the best. Frank Bryant is a professor of literature, and Rita is his newest student, a hairdresser who thinks Macbeth runs the local pub, and Hamlet is a plate of eggs with cheese. He's a failed writer who has given up on his life. She's determined to change hers by getting an education. And the more she loves to learn, the more he learns how to love. The director of Educating Rita, Louis Gilbert, says of Julie Walters, she was born to play the role, and how right he is. She is a joy to watch in this film. Michael Caine is also enjoyable to watch, and the chemistry between the two is wonderful. On my rating scale, Educating Rita gets an 8. The film has its slow moments, and as I mentioned earlier, this is not an action picture. This is a relatively slow-moving, easygoing, charming comedy that's fun to watch. And who knows, you might even learn something from it. I'm Dean O'Lally. First of all, welcome to Oklahoma, and I want to say that you are, without a doubt, the prettiest grandmother I've ever seen.
Oh, please.
How many grandchildren do you have?
I have five grandchildren. Mm-hmm. 2 of them are boys and 3 are girls.
And are they scattered all over the United States?
Yes, East Coast and West Coast.
Tell me, what do you feel before, as many years you've been performing, do you still get nervous before you step onto the stage?
Oh, yes. I think that goes with the territory.
Is it one of those situations where I've heard some people say when it comes to the point where they don't get nervous anymore, they'll get scared?
Well, I don't know, because I don't make myself be nervous. It just happens.
Just happens.
Yeah, it just happens.
What type of music do you like to listen to?
I like all of it. I like it all. I can't do it all, and I won't imitate any of it, but I like all music.
What about movies? Do you get a chance to see many these days?
I see all the old ones on television and whatever the cable shows. You know, I came in yesterday, and so far I've seen 4 or 5, but I'm looking forward to more.
You have performed with some of the great names in music, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, and many others, especially in the old days. What experiences do you still carry from those days now?
Well, I learned a lot from them musically. I don't know whether the old days were that much fun, but every great performer that I had the chance to see, I watched very carefully. And I think that's the one thing I miss that some young people miss today. But they don't have too many great, they're all sort of, the record companies keep them sort of on the same level of whatever this year's album they're pushing. There's that kind of competition, but they don't really, I think, have time enough to stop and really listen to each other and profit by what's going on.
Tell us when you'll be performing, how many performances you have. And
I have 6 performances here in Oklahoma every night.
Through Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, at 8 o'clock.
The Civic Center Music Hall.
Yes.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your show. I haven't had the opportunity yet, but I've heard great things about it. And,
well, I hope you do, and I hope you're not too disappointed, and I'll see you.
I'm sure I won't be disappointed. Thank you for talking with us today.
Thanks.
Okay. Stay there for okay. Richard Pryor is back again with another concert film. This time the place is New Orleans, specifically Bourbon Street. I think Richard Pryor here and now will of course appeal to those who like his style of stand-up comedy. Plus for those who may not care too much for his style, well, they might possibly find something to like in this film. I will say it's nice to see him on stage, his most natural setting, after the trivial roles in The Toy and Superman 3. Pryor is, in my opinion, a comic genius, and once again he touches that realm in parts of this film. In comparison, though, to his previous concert film, Live on the Sunset Strip, I would have to pick that one over Here and Now because of its consistent laughs. Pryor's new mellow style comes out in Here and Now. He talks about being off the drugs and booze, then he gives us a hilarious rendition of a typical drunk.
I don't know what it is that make drunk people want to talk, but you can bet if somebody's drunk, he gonna talk. You know what I mean? You ever be driving, the police ease up behind you, put them bright lights on you, and your brain start going,
don't worry about it. Just be cool. Just get it together. You're ready now. When they come up, say everything's fine, okay? Just say everything's fine. Everything's fine. All right.
Now that's what you see in your brain, but your mouth has made up its mind. Police will come under mine.
How you feeling?
I don't know, man. I used to get drunk and try to talk, but you can't never understand a drunk, and he'll explain anything to you. Police come up. What happened here? Hey! I know I was in there. Shit, I was gone.
Pryor definitely has a message to give to the audience and viewers. There's one piece in Here and Now that slows the film's pace down a bit, but the routine is somewhat potent in its effect. Pryor portrays a drug addict whom he knew as a boy. He said he always thought the guy was cool, but he adds, I didn't realize the guy was shooting his head off. Pryor takes that character from a heroin injection to the borders of an overdose. The piece is funny in parts, but its message is clear in our minds. Richard Pryor also touches on such subjects as poverty, racism, marriage, and sex. And I have to say at this point, it's almost a given, but this film is not for people with weak ears. The language is very rough. 4-letter words are used in abundance, especially when Pryor is reacting to someone in the audience. On my rating scale, Richard Pryor, Here and Now, gets a 7. Parts of the film are hysterically funny. Pryor is less self-examining. The old anger is not there. Well, only small traces of it still lingers. He truly seems to be a happier, changed man. The only thing that hasn't changed about him is his brilliant comedic talents. I'm Dean O'Lawley. Tom Cruise is quickly becoming Hollywood's newest heartthrob. Ever since his screen debut in Endless Love, he starred in such films as Taps, The Outsiders, and the summer smash hit Risky Business. Yet movies were not always his passion.
Well, I used to not go to movies at all. And then when I became an actor, I started going to different films because I started, after doing Taps, seeing like different things. I mean, the angles and the lighting and just, what the actor's doing in a scene. And I look for new, interesting things that are happening,
The 21-year-old Cruise has become a dedicated young actor who literally transforms himself into the characters he plays. For The Outsiders, he gained 20 pounds and sported a tattoo and a chipped front tooth. To realistically portray a gung-ho cadet in Taps, he developed military discipline and went so far as to shave his head. For his new role as the promising young football hero in All the Right Moves, Cruise went on a program of rigorous physical training and daily workouts with a local football team.
We're just rolling around the mud and the coach is just pushing us and just making us run 10 laps and just hitting and just, just on our case and just... But it's so emotional, everything that's happening in the sport is so emotional. This is what we do before games, before big games, before every game, that we want it. We need that punishment. You've got to earn it if you're going to win.
Tom Cruise is a talented young actor who has worked hard and earned the acclaim of critics and audiences alike. His latest film, All the Right Moves, is currently playing in local theaters, and I'll review it for you later on this week. I'm Dean O'Lally.
So where are you going?
Where am I going? As a young student biologist, author Farley Mowat was sent to the Arctic by the Canadian government. Mowat's dramatic Arctic odyssey is the subject of Never Cry Wolf, a new film by Black Stallion director Carol Ballard. It stars Charles Martin Smith as the young Farley Mowat. Mowat's assignment to confirm that packs of wolves were killing off the Yukon's great caribou herds.
And then I discovered over the period that I lived with the wolves that the whole thing was a lot of baloney. What was happening was that the caribou were being slaughtered in enormous numbers, mostly by white hunters, and for such stupid things as their tongues instead of the whole body. Sport hunters were coming up in aircraft and shooting a whole herd in order to get one good set of antlers. So, human beings being what they always are, they had to find a scapegoat. We never blame ourselves, So the thing to do is to blame the wolves. The wolf plays an absolutely vital role as a control factor in wildlife populations because the animals they are taking are the ones that are least fitted for survival. They cull the herds and keep the herds healthy.
In Mowat's estimation, wolves are a far cry from the classic bloodthirsty stereotype.
Of course, the facts of the matter, the truth, turned out to be quite different. I discovered, and very quickly discovered, that wolves are chivalrous, playful. There's no such thing as a pack, by the way. There are only wolf families. And sometimes you get an extended family with a few extras, but it's always a family, and there's always one dominant male who everybody looks up to. He's the tribal leader. They acted, in other words, very, very much like human beings do.
Today, Mowat's dispute rages on. U.S. government studies maintain that wolves do, in fact, endanger caribou. But Farley Mowat sounds the battle cry. This long-time controversy has a new battleground, the movie Never Cry Wolf. I'm Dean O'Lally. In Never Cry Wolf, the new film by director Carol Ballard, Charles Martin Smith stars as a rookie biologist challenged by life in the Arctic. He finds the air travel atrocious, accommodations are crowded, and the food gives him second thoughts. Those scenes in the film didn't take much acting by Smith. He was the original indoorsman.
I'd certainly never been in the North. I'd never been up in the Arctic at all. I never even went camping or anything.
Canadian author Farley Mowat, who wrote the book Never Cry Wolf about his own adventures in the Arctic, claims he wasn't really so naive.
He portrays me as being somewhat more idiotic than I was. I point out to him this was easy for him because he is more idiotic than I am. And we've had some arguments about it. But actually, yes, I didn't know very much about the North.
Mowat lived with the Arctic wolves, on occasion ran with them as they hunted caribou.
Far from hostile, the Arctic was a place of immense life, immense potential for life. And that was the great discovery for me, and that was the beginning of my great love affair with the Arctic, which lasted for so long.
Charles Martin Smith got no such insight from chasing caribou.
The caribou tend to run off very quickly. They're really good at that. And it was down just above freezing. So, you know, being naked wasn't a lot of fun either. We have a lot of footage on the cutting room floor of me blue and shivering.
In the end, Charles Martin Smith saw the Arctic through his character's eyes.
There used to be wolves all across the United States. They're just about gone, you know. We've just about wiped them out. Man has always had this sort of hatred of wolves, and it doesn't seem to be any reason for it, really. I don't know. I'd really like to try and do something to keep the wolves going.
Farley Mowat approves.
And Charley has done an absolutely superb job of recreating the change that took place in me. The outsider, the alien human being in an animal's world, gradually learning to become part of that world. And he's done it with subtlety and, I think, absolute unbelievable skill.
The film Never Cry Wolf opens tomorrow in Oklahoma City. I'm Dean O'Lally.
Who's the best pilot you ever saw?
What was the question?
Who's the best pilot you ever saw?
I don't think I'm the one, that's for sure. I wonder what this button is. Oh, that was nice. This is an F-4 Phantom jet. It takes a special kind of man to fly this thing. The pilot needs, let's say, the right stuff, as did the men involved in the space program just as it was getting off the ground. Now, the movie The Right Stuff has a lot of great stuff. It's a good, entertaining adventure film that is definitely worth your time. I say time because the movie is 3 hours long.
The Right Stuff spans a period of 16 years from 1947 to 1963. It covers a lot of ground, which is what I'm going to try and do over the next couple of minutes. We first see test pilot Chuck Yeager break the sound barrier in his X-1, the first man to do so. This is the first major event of the film, and it starts things off with a bang, or sonic boom. Yeager is very well played by Sam Shepard. He possesses a quiet Gary Cooper-like strength. We then see how the original Project Mercury astronauts were chosen. They go through rigorous and sometimes humorous tests. The 7 are finally picked. Scott Glenn portrays Alan Shepard. Ed Harris is John Glenn. Dennis Quaid plays Gordon Cooper. Fred Ward is Gus Grissom. Scott Paulin is Deke Slayton. Lance Heinrichsen plays Wally Schirra, and Charles Frank portrays Scott Carpenter. Astronauts Carpenter, Schirra, and Slayton don't receive a lot of screen time. The others do, of course, and they're fun to watch and they keep things moving. It's true some parts of the film don't quite work, but there are several scenes that will keep you on the edge of your seat.
One of the many highlights of The Right Stuff is the launch of John Glenn's first orbital mission.
The Right Stuff works on a variety of levels. It's fascinating, for instance, to see how NASA and government officials were looking to acrobats and stunt people first before the idea of pilots was interjected. It was fun to see Lyndon Johnson react to the fact that Mrs. John Glenn wouldn't talk to him. Mrs. Glenn, for those who don't know, was a chronic stutterer. It's also satisfying to see how John Glenn himself handled that particular situation. Gus Grissom's wife is very upset when she can't meet Jackie Kennedy. How the wives are affected by the sudden impact of their husband's notoriety is handled very well in the film. Courage is, of course, a major theme in the film. The Right Stuff has something for everyone, Each person will treasure their own favorite section. The first Mercury press conference, the delay in Alan Shepard's first mission, the big barbecue party that LBJ throws for the astronauts in Houston, the bonding together of courageous and pioneer men. This epic film tells a lot of tales that will move you in several ways. Every single performance is outstanding. The writing, direction, special effects, editing, and musical score are all superb.
The Right Stuff is funny, enlightening, at times nerve-wracking, but always entertaining. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see some Oscar nominations come out of this film because it is, without a doubt, a stand-up and cheer kind of movie. I'm Dean O'Lally. I'm taking the cab back home, folks.
Behind the scenes of Kennedy.
Help me God. The greatest challenge is getting the idea right, getting the general ideas right. It's important that you do try and capture the spirit of the age.
The term of office of the nation's 35th president only lasted 3 years, but they were, to say the least, eventful years. But those years have been captured in the NBC miniseries Kennedy.
We're not going for mimicry. I haven't cast people who, because they look like Kennedy or because they look like Jackie. You have to, because what we're making a portrait is not of the physical appearance of the man, but of the spirit of the man and the spirit of the age, trying to capture that.
The role of John F. Kennedy is recreated by Martin Sheen. He explains the intentions of his performance and the miniseries itself.
Intention is to give a as wide a scoped portrait as we can of those 3 years, from the night of the November election night in 1960 to Dallas in '63. And we've only got 7 hours to do what it took 3 years to achieve. But we are touching on all those important points, both public and private, and all of the crises and the achievements, the extraordinary achievements.
We intend to put a man on the moon and to bring him back safely again by the first day of 1970.
Liftoff. All right, liftoff, and the clock has started.
We're covering 3 years of three of the most interesting years in American political history since the war, certainly. It's an absolute watershed. So much was happening.
And tomorrow on Action 4, we'll see some of the other aspects of putting together this miniseries. I'm Dean O'Lally. Behind the scenes of Kennedy. A team effort by cast and crew was essential in the making of this NBC miniseries, which included several large crowd scenes.
Any performing art is a team effort. This, above all, is important. It takes a whole community of people to make a film, and it's no less important in this effort. In fact, it's that much more important.
The problem with large scenes with lots, 500 or 600 or 1,000 extras are primarily ones of organisation and getting those people fed, dressed, haircuts, wigs. It's a lot of work.
A lot of work went into the filming of this elegant ball, which takes place in the White House East Room. It was shot, however, inside a Richmond, Virginia social club, a location chosen more for size than similarity. The responsibility for collecting and designing the costumes for Kennedy fell to costume designer Jane Greenwood.
After a while, we realized that the project was so enormous that we just collected everything that had the look of the 60s, because we had so many different walks of life to deal with, too. Not just the White House, but scenes in Alabama and scenes in Washington.
Whether filming the ballroom in Richmond, Virginia, or recreating White House interiors in New York City, the emphasis was always on accuracy.
What is nice is everyone feels that it's important to dot every I and cross every T without getting kind of paranoid about it.
As difficult as the large ensemble scenes were to film, no less challenging were the intimate moments.
You have to try and imagine what these people were, what was in their heads at the moment that those scenes took place.
And tomorrow on Action 4, a final look at the making of the miniseries Kennedy. I'm Dean O'Lally.